If you don't feel like watching this video, you can just read my review for the short version of what I'm about to talk about. Although my words aren't always as black and white as they may seem. Haha, see what I did there? Because I desaturated the colors as I said that. Yeah, whatever. The film Freaks holds a significantly controversial aura around it, even without any context. The title itself comes across as rather offensive. Not just in today's somewhat adjusted culture, but back in the 30s also, as it turns out. A large majority of the potential audience was indeed turned off by the suggestiveness of the title.
For 1932, this movie was so shocking that it was banned. With a title like Freaks, most people saw it as an insult to people with abnormalities.
Having the titular Freaks being a focus of supposed ridicule left a lot of sour taste in a lot of mouths before even giving the film a chance. Perhaps rightfully so. Well, not exactly, with the not so equally old saying of "don't judge the book by its cover" applying to this peculiar little production. Or rather the amazing production, as the cover art confidently claims. I'm not here to bash the outdated faults of the film though, especially as I don't feel any technical critique is relevant to such films of that era.
Sie ist aber prachtvoll, nicht wahr, Hans? She's the most beautiful big woman I have ever seen.
I found myself fully engaged thanks to the writing and captivated through the visuals by a handful of older films dating from the 30s to the 60s. I guess what I'm trying to say is that any visible shortcomings don't actually take away from the viewing experience. In fact, a lot of the time these faulty aspects can add a certain charm. But anyway, I made a whole video essay discussing a different kind of beauty within the medium, and the age of a film bears no relevance to what I expressed in that video, so I'll digress for now.
Well, here's something for your eye.
But yeah, I'm not going to nitpick and point out obvious frame jumps or whatever to feel like I'm noticing something that others aren't. I mean, seriously, how can a process like that even be considered productive? I'm here to question the morality of the film given its sensitive subject matter, and one that I feel particularly passionate about. Disabilities, deformities, just pure physical differences being represented in film was essentially unheard of at the time. The titular Freaks, which I hate referring to them as that. I don't care how many old men try to convince me about the term not being derogatory.
Freaks is not a dirty word. There's nothing wrong with looking at somebody that is different than you are.
It was used as an insult in the actual film, and it sure as hell serves as an insult nowadays. So from now on I'll just refer to this lot as the unique bunch. That's the best I'll come up with on a vein-fueled whim.
Ah! How's the proud father?
Fine.
What was it?
A go.
Better luck next time. You might get a couple of Smith brothers.
I'm fine.
So anyway, this unique bunch exhibits a nice variety of physical differences. The living torso clearly is more than just a torso. Don't let that clever head be overlooked. The pinheads clearly don't possess the usual head shape. The skeleton man also has his physical attribute clearly evoked in the nickname. You get the idea. Our first introduction to this fascinating ensemble occurs when some asshole gets triggered by them for being outside, living and breathing on the open. Yeah, sounds like a grade above your typical asshole. But unfortunately, this seems to have been the ordinary standard for typical assholes at the time.
Let's go! All of you! 2, 3! Despachez-vous, 2, 3! Go away, all of you! Don't you know trespassing's the same as stealing?
We're treated to a few more short-lived scenes featuring these unique folks, having a large portion of the narrative focus going towards the tragic triangle, before joining them all together for this spectacular sequence. I'd call this the juiciest part of the film's meat. not only are we treated to the entire ensemble of the unique bunch sharing the table with the actual freaks of the film, which in itself sets off a truly compelling dynamic of the collective, while simultaneously building particularly effective tension without the perhaps expected layer of accessible transparency. But more importantly, we get to be reassured that the heart of the film is after all in the right place, as that juicy meat squeezes out the purest type of an unjust conflict in that classic cinematic fashion. It is clear as daylight, or rather black and white, as to who the villains are, and thus ultimately who the actual freaks are, despite what the cover may initially make you think. Which is why the cover shouldn't be judged, you see. Now, the unique bunch may not make up the majority of the film's focus, but their appearances do make a significantly memorable impact, whether through concrete but tonally disconnected scenes with the somewhat muddled narrative structure, or for the mere blessing of just passing by in between some major developments. Their presence is certainly felt through and through.
Cleopatra ain't one of us. Why, we're just filthy things to her. She'd spit on hands if they wasn't giving her presents.
Let her try it. Let her try doing anything to one of us.
You're right. She don't know us, but she'll find out.
No. When? Come on! Come on! Come on, Venus! The bearded lady's baby's born!
With all these disjointed sequences, the film ends up being somewhat of a mishmash in terms of tone, not blending into any particular genre besides having the romance drama at the forefront. Speaking of genres, I wasn't even aware that this was partly supposed to be a horror film. Of course, the third act did build a rather moody atmosphere besides the suspense, but even with full engagement, as well as awareness of genre shticks at the time, it wasn't exactly scary, was it? What's this poor guy going to do? Well, according to some guy with a mustache on the DVD documentary bonus, the original ending, that had to be cut because people were far from being desensitized in that backwards era, actually showed some physical contact. Visible violence began with a tree falling on Cleopatra after being struck by lightning, and ended with the ensemble of the unique bunch expectedly ganging up on her by crawling on top and covering her. Sounds pretty intense, and a lot more cathartic than a cheap cutaway because people at the time couldn't handle some quality cinema trying something a little more daring. Anyway, that poor guy could have done some significant damage after all, crawling up near her head to jab that knife in her eye or something once everyone else overpowered her. Clearly my imagination would have run a little wilder if the extended ending wasn't so tragically cut short. Nowadays, people have useless clips archived infinitely, but a classic piece of cinema seems to be forever lost to time, and as a result, that poor man got less justice than he deserved on screen.
Let me tell you something that everybody around here don't know. We're only killing time with this circus. We've got bigger time to follow, and we can do it too. Well, catch a rack tomorrow night. We got something new.
Now you can do anything with eyebrow?
By the way, I'm not calling him poor to be condescending. I do genuinely feel sorry for the man, since I got a strong feeling he got an extra dose of injustice simply due to the color of his skin. can't help but notice the blatant racism on that cover art. I mean, who else was that supposed to be? That's definitely him. Except for some dumb reason he just isn't black when being advertised. They could have at least updated the art for today's releases. I mean, come on. And who's this supposed to be? Doesn't look like one of the pinheads, but I was eager to see this interesting flat-headed man who turned out to not actually be in the film.
Have I not told you? God, look, after all these children.
The little special message intended as a prelude makes a very bold claim regarding the abnormal people starring in the film, claiming such people simply cease to exist due to advancements in modern medicine and science, egging on the audience to stare in awe at the supposedly unrepeatable wonders of the human form. Too sure-sounding to end up aging well, regardless of the future's outcome. Although I think I get what they were going for. I'm also fond of preserving the past. Being quite big on pure as well as pseudo-nostalgia alike, I find a lot of value in history being captured in this capsule known as film. Regardless of the intentions, however, these claims end up sounding controversially unsettling, but also fascinating given everything we know to be the present future.
So far, what was telling so was white. I wish you were a man I was just in my time stand.
Why, Slitsy, what's the matter? Oh, I'm sorry, Slitsy.
This house fire. They still was sharp. I was telling them asked to stay on his dad.
All in all, in spite of the few passive yet all the same noticeably significant moral blurs, as well as a few clearly intentional fuck-ups, I can be pretty confident in claiming that this film does indeed have its heart in the right place. As evidence influence shows, the film clearly did more good than bad. But besides its cultural merit, Freaks stands out as just a damn good movie. Whether you try digging into it as I did, or just go with the flow by letting the base story guide you, you'll come out of a firmly satisfying viewing experience either way. Give yourself an indefinite break from the overpowering nature of judgment and just live a little, and let there be life.